G'day and welcome back for more Survival Impossible. I've had a fair bit of time to think about what I want to do next. And pretty much what I think I need to do and what I definitely want to do, I say think I need to do because I don't really have a clue. I gotta be completely honest about that. There are certain things that I'm just like, yeah, I don't actually know what's the best plan here. But with the extra turrets that are now available, and particularly the longer range, higher damage turrets that are now available, I think I'm going to need a whole lot of magnesium, and that means let's just finish the magnesium road. Because I'm going to be traveling along it regularly, I would like to have it complete and have it so that I can travel along something that feels nice as I'm going. Now, that's a strange thing to talk about finishing something when the first thing I do as I come back is grind down this old truck. That's because this was a terrible design and it was always doomed to fail. I've messed around a bit with hitches for something that's going to be able to travel in both directions, and I just don't think we've got the rotors and hinges small enough that we'd be able to do it justice. I can easily make something with multiple cars like this that moves quite well in one direction, just doesn't so much work in the other direction.
Energy.
So I'm going to scrap this because I do need to build something relatively small, but that will hopefully help me build the bridge a lot faster, or well, finish the road, which involves building the bridge a lot faster. Rats. That is going to be a welding ship. One of the things I've been thinking about a bit is how in Survival Impossible, I've kind of not really scaled my production or my building techniques as I've gone along. But my buildings have scaled. So what I mean by that is I'm still doing most of this stuff by hand, even on the very large constructions that have become kind of the normal for me. So I think what I should be doing is actually scaling up my welding, scaling up my building in all senses.
Energy critical.
And then dealing with the problems related to power that those are going to create. Because, oh yeah, they are going to create some serious problems with power, because the more I fly, the more power I use, etc. But that all feeds into what I was working on anyway, which was getting hydrogen here regularly. And I've got a supply of hydrogen, I think. Yeah. I've actually got a pretty solid supply of hydrogen. I've got a large hydrogen tank that's 82% full. That will be able to produce a decent amount of power through my hydrogen engines. So I think it's time I build towards that scaling up. I focus on that scaling up side of things. Because then I can build cool stuff like a giant bridge, like that sort of thing, without it taking me, well, 10 hours or more to do. Because that was kind of what I was faced with, and it really didn't help my motivation to do those things. Because I'd look at them and go, oh, that's so much to do. That's so much to do. So that's the plan. Scale up my production. Get us to a point where I can build big things and I can do them at a reasonable pace. Now, obviously, I'm still going to build a whole lot of stuff by hand because there are a lot of things that welding ships just aren't good at, like interiors. Because I tend to design my interiors after I have my exterior dimensions. It just works better for me that way. But at least getting those exteriors down, or any large structures down, should be much quicker. Can't really say anything definite when I'm here grinding down a vehicle that was it was a straight up failure. That's okay. Step one towards my process of upscaling my production is a welding ship. Now, welding ship in this gravity it's not going to be particularly efficient. It's going to have a lot of thrust to even carry a moderate amount of steel plate or something like that. It's going to spend a lot of time in the air going to and from wherever it's collecting resources. So it's not going to be great, but I think it will still be better. Step 1, I think, is lay out where I'm going to have the welders and the cargo connections for them, because that's always a bit of a pain with welder ships on small grid. I was contemplating briefly, very briefly, contemplating the concept of a large grid welding ship, but it started just, like, as I started thinking through how that might work, the size of the thing just started blowing out to something ridiculous. So I abandoned that idea because I don't think it's going to work well. I think I still want to have some medium cargo containers on this. I was tossing up the idea of just having the welders be the cargo capacity of it, but I feel like that might be underselling what this might be capable of, although I guess this could be something I regret. But I'm thinking 2 medium cargo containers and 2 welders, side by side, like so. Because that's going to minimize the amount of extra stuff I need on this in order to connect up these to a connector. So I'm thinking conveyor junction and another junction, and then we'll stick a connector on the back here. That's simple. That's the whole cargo network. Means that these 2 welders can pull from either side, that sort of thing. It's all should work fairly well. Now, I'd really like to use an industrial cockpit because I think it looks nice for this. But they're also heavier than one of these cockpits. They just look so much nicer though for this use. What to do, what to do, what to do? I'm going to go with the industrial. I'm going to do it anyway. Next up for this thing is going to be... Oh, hold up. Hold up. I think I've done this wrong. Yeah, I've done this wrong. Let's get rid of... Whoops. All that. Whoops. Good start, Splitsie, good start. Let's instead go with a conveyor junction as the beginning. So my idea here is, instead of having the 2 cargo containers, let's just go with 2 conveyor junctions, 2 welders, and 1 cargo container. I think that's a better middle ground. I do want the 2 welders because a single grid welder is just so slow that I don't think it's... Whoops, that's not what I want. I want a medium cargo container first. I think it'll just be too slow, whereas having 2 of them, it should be tolerable that way. Here we go. That's what I wanted. So we go with that. Then back to my cockpit. Out on the side here. Set up a bit, I think. I was tempted to set it down. Yeah, let's do it. Whatever. That's going to look interesting. And then the thing that has to be done, because this is Omicron. A lot of large thrusters. So my thought is 1, 2, and 3. 3 large thrusters, all for lift. I'm working at a fairly high elevation here as well, which makes my flight even worse than it would be on Omicron in general. Omicron's bad because it's got a 1.9 G gravitational force, but this location is also bad because I'm high up, which means the atmosphere talk Splitsie, the atmosphere is thinner. That means these provide less thrust for the same amount of energy input. So it all stacks up to be not nice for what I'm trying to do here. But we're going to do it anyway. Now I need my lateral thrusters and my lift and my forward back thrust. Reverse thrust is pretty easy, and that's good because it's the one we need the most of aside from lifting. This thing's mostly going to have to operate horizontally. I'm going to have to keep it pretty level. I don't think it's going to cope with any sort of... well, with any significant sort of tilt. So it's really just going to be for getting the bulk of things done. And then the splatform can be used for doing the little bits and pieces. In my head at the moment, I'm thinking about the bridge, the big bridge, and the fact that I want to build a tall pylon at the center of it. So I want to be able to place down all the steel plate that's going to be required for that without it taking 3 years for me to get it done. So that's 5 right, 5 left, 3 forward, and 6 back. Now, 3 forward and 6 back is fine. That doesn't need to be symmetrical because I actually kind of don't want to push forward hard. I want to... I'm rarely going to be tilting backwards, and I really hope I don't end up tilting backwards now that I've said that. I'll mainly be tilting forward when I'm welding. At least that's been my experience when using welding ships. I predominantly end up leaning much further forward than I do back. Here we are, my little thruster ball. I need to get up on top and do some piping so that I can get... Oh, Splitsie. Seriously. Seriously. What am I doing?
Energy critical.
I need to get up on top so that I can place down some batteries, and I'm going to need a lot of batteries. 1, to have any decent sort of flight time, and 2, to have an actual chance at providing enough energy for 3 large thrusters. And I'm tossing up between putting those batteries on the back here, putting some on the back here, and some on the top. I think I will. If I go to there, it actually opens up this as a viable position for 2 side thrusters. And let's get a ramp. Give myself a little ladder to get up on top. 2 like that. Then we can put 2 more thrusters here. That's 4. And then I can put a 5th here. I think the vent is on this back bit. So I'll try not to weld up this atmospheric thruster until I've welded up the cockpit and find out where I need to put the vent. And then I was thinking we go battery, battery, battery. Like 3 more on top, so that's 5 batteries. Which will hopefully last long enough and hopefully not weigh so much that I end up kind of in that arms race between power supply and power usage and weight. And ugh. Fingers crossed this is going to allow me to carry, like, what can I carry in my suit? I think I can carry like 200 plate or something with the amount of bottles I tend to carry. 254. So I guess if this can carry 800 plate without crashing, that's probably as much as I can expect. Hoping for more than that, I think, is a bit unrealistic. So obviously all this talk about how little this is going to be able to carry makes me think back to the vehicle that I ground down at the start and its original plan, because the plan for that was to be able to carry lots of resources up to the bridge and also other construction areas so that something like this or this platform could work from it. And it is unfortunate that didn't work out. I'm still contemplating building some sort of cargo carrier to be separate to the rock lobster. Something that's, instead of these drills, perhaps could be the same sort of platform, just with 3 large cargo containers. And just focusing on being able to get up and down that road as quickly as possible. Huh. Kind of like that idea. Copy that platform. Instead of having hydrogen generators on the side, we just slap it full of batteries. Do the same on this side, behind the cockpit, just full of batteries or engines. Because then, something like that could act as cargo and maybe losing a little bit of power to this thing. Might actually be my best idea around that. Still got a bit of time to think about it, since I'm going to be testing this thing out at some point. We'll have a bit of a feel as to how quickly it's going to use up its power in the process of building things. A little vent on top of my cockpit so I don't suffocate. Then we need a couple of gyros. Actually, probably more than a couple of gyros. Then we see if I've gone with too many batteries to actually be able to carry a decent amount of stuff on this, or if this is going to be about right. Let's do a couple of pre-flight checks and make sure I've got everything I need to have on this. First off, let's grab all the thrusters and put them in a group so I can turn them on when I need to. Let's call this thing the cheese ball for now, given the color I painted it. I'm gonna want backward thrusters on a group for efficient flight. Let those batteries charge for a bit, and we should be good to go. I am going to do my utmost to resist putting too much in the way of greebling on this. In fact, I'm going to try and put none on it. I'm just going to leave it like this. It is purely functional blocks right now. Because the more blocks I put on it, is the less weight I can carry when I want to fly somewhere and weld something up. Oh, that's the other thing I should probably do. Batteries. It's taken me a while, but I have slowly gotten better at remembering to name things. So, pre-flight checks. We've got thrust left and right that are even, though oddly distributed. We have forward thrust. We have reverse thrust. And we have a whole lot of lift. We have gyroscopes. We do not have an antenna. I don't think I'll put one on here. Nor do we have a remote control. Also, don't think I'll put one on here. Mainly for the power usage side of things. Having to run an antenna just for the rare, very unlikely outcome that I was to die in the cockpit or something. Not worth it. We've got the cockpit pressurized with a vent. And anyway, if I did run into that rare situation, I could get up or get on the splatform, fly up to this, hop in this, fly this back, and then remote the splatform back, because it does have remote. But anyway, I think we're good. Now, one thought I had for after this flight goes is I could use the rock lobster to carry a bunch of stuff up there. Fortunately, its connector is also already oriented in the correct direction for me to be able to hook that thing on the back. What I'm wondering is it going to be too heavy to hook it on the back and drive to Steve's hole in the wall? Not through the tunnel. No plans on driving through the tunnel, but maybe it'll do that. If it can't, I'm not sure what to do. Actually, even if it can, I'm not sure what to do. How do I get... Oh... How do I get myself and another vehicle there when this thing's going to be too big? Do I need to fit an antenna and a remote to it just so I can remote pilot the welder over to wherever I'm going to be building and then drive there in whatever I'm going to use to transport the goods? Yeah, I think that might be smart. Smart. I really wish I hadn't gotten rid of my ramp. Now I'll need to stick a camera on there so that I can get up to the bridge or whichever construction site, land this thing, turn off its antenna, and then drive over there in something that can provide this with more power and more cargo without it having to fly all the way back to the main base. Because really want to minimize that flight so that I can use more of the flight for the welding time. Love. I love that I had just finished talking myself out of adding a remote. And then I realized why I needed a remote. And I got rid of the ramp before the job was done. Come on. We're getting there. There we go. Camera done. It's kind of working out well that I'm just trying to find busy work to do while the battery's charged, because it means I'm thinking through these extra things that I often forget to do. And on this hotbar, I'm going to put my antenna on off. And just for safety, as I've been trying to remember to do, food and water in the cockpit. So once this is fully charged, what I'm going to do is I'm going to land it on the ground here, and then I'm going to load it up progressively with more steel plate. See how much we can fit in it, and see how much weight it can actually carry at this altitude, and then probably go at least 10% less than that all of the time. Or, you know, at least a few thousand kilos less than that weight whenever I'm using this thing, because I'm pretty sure everything along that magnesium road is at a higher altitude than I'm at currently. Okie dokie, we have fully recharged batteries, so let's turn them off. Recharge, let's turn the thrusters on and hope this doesn't spin around like crazy, because I need to quickly grind that off. There we go. We're now flying. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good so far. Let's fly outside and see that I've got enough power to do 3 directions of thrust. So 3 directions that have the most would be reverse, lift, and to the side. Yeah, easy. Only using up 52% of my power. I have 2 hours of flight time at a hover. Significantly less than that in actual use, but at least that's a decent flight time. That's while I'm empty though. And I'm almost never going to be empty with this thing. Let's go outside, because the way I've set up these thrusters, I will destroy the floor. Let's land on the voxels instead. And then start doing these weight tests. Let's do 750 to begin with. 750 steel plate. Can I take off? Yes, I can. And it's not too bad. Okay. 54 seems alright. I think that's going to be where I kind of cap out though. Let's just, since this is the stress test, let's push this up to 1250 and almost 60,000 kilos. Okay, we can do it. Right, let's just keep going until I can't lift off. Or until I run out of cargo space. Ideally, I'd like to run out of cargo space first, because that feels like the right way for this to have gone. But I don't think it's going to happen, because for 1500, I haven't even filled the 2 welders. I'm sure I needed this medium cargo container. I'm glad I didn't put 2 medium cargo containers on here. Okay, that's feeling a little iffy. And I do drop quite quickly when I tap C to go down. But, stress testing. Let's keep going. 1750. Can't lift off. Alright, cool. We have reached a point where I can't carry anymore. So it seems like 1500 steel plate, or I think it was 65,000 kilos. That's where I want to kind of not go above. Need some lights, and then I guess I'll just fly it to the bridge so I can start working on that. Let's do this. Cheese ball. Control. Got to put the camera on the hotbar. View. Dampers on. Oh, lights, 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 lights. What are you doing, Splitsie? You even said it a few seconds before you did that. Oops. Wrong key. Everything's okay. Oh. Just had a thought. This is going to be pretty hard to land with the camera without being able to see properly. So what I might do is first off, take all the cargo out of it. And then what I'm going to do is load up the rock lobster and head off towards the bridge in it, and then off from the bridge in the rock lobster, I'll bring this thing up to me. Feel like that makes sense? Because landing is probably the more dangerous part than taking off, although I'm sure the canary that I destroyed by hitting the hangar roof would disagree. But yeah, I think this will be okay. So let's smash that one full of 5,000 plate. That seems like a good place to start. And then grab some bits and pieces of other things. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to figure out other stuff that I need once I get up there, but this should get me going. And let me show you guys what I'm planning on doing with the bridge and how I'm planning on building it. Why do I get the distinct feeling that I was meant to not go above 80,000 kilos for this thing? These hills are proving to be quite the challenge. I think we're at 100% power. Oh dear. This could be quite the slow journey. Arrived at the bridge. Now, I have actually made, and some of you might have seen the stream where I did it, I've actually made a blueprint of what this bridge is supposed to look like. Now, I don't normally do that in Survival Impossible. I tend to try and build as much as I can in the world. But for the bridge, the scale of it and everything else, I wanted to make sure it looked right, and I knew that if I wanted to ever get it done, I needed to make that process a little bit easier. So, I do actually have a blueprint of it, and I just realized I don't have a control panel on that projector, so I need to go back to the one that's on the battery that's inside the little hole. So basically, it's not going to be a simple build. Like, it's still going to be a difficult thing for me to build this, even using the projection. because it involves subgrids and I can't project those. So it's still going to be an interesting process. Projector. Blueprints. Okay. And what can we see when we walk out here? Okay, that is definitely the wrong orientation. So you can see the tower that I want to build, and that is where the welding ship's going to come in. Because I really need to be able to weld this deck, and I really need to be able to weld that tower, and for it to not take 3 weeks for me to do it. Is that too far or not far enough? That's annoying. That is not far enough. And I'm at the limit of that projector, so I need to build a new projector. Well, nuts. Alright. I think I brought enough stuff up here to do that. Yeah, okay. It's lining up with the light posts. Or is it? Oh. Oh? Okay, there. Huh. Okay, apparently I messed up one of the light posts. Whoops. Oh, I should have this building. Dum-dum Splitsie, what are you doing? Okay, cool. So this tower is going to be part of the bridge. There's also, obviously, all these lights going along it. So it's going to be a bit of a... It's going to be a bit of a project getting this done. There's also a kind of an anchor for the cables up in the mountain there that's going to require some drilling, probably. Most of which is going to have to be done by hand because I'm not going to be able to get up there with any sort of drill ship. I don't have any flying drill ship either, so there's that too. Cool. Alright. Okay, let's turn on the antenna on this. And Shift K. Control the cheese ball. Dampeners on. And lift off. Did not do the reverse thrusters on this though. Okay, reverse thrusters off, which means we got our vague cruise control. Huh. Just realized something. In all that time I was setting up all my controls on my hopper, I didn't actually add the welders. The thing the ship was built for. Didn't even add. Okay, I've arrived. I think I'm gonna have to manually transfer stuff into this, because I have not. Maybe not. I could move the rock lobster forward if I give myself enough room. If I land that on this bridge, I'm gonna burn a hole in it. I need to land in here. Do I? Or do I indeed? Okay, that's a little discomforting, but it works. Let's turn off the antenna on both of these. Stop using up that power. That's quite the lean. And I can start loading up some steel plate and welding up this thing. Okay, time to see. Okay, 1,000 plates was enough. Glad I didn't go more. Let's start welding this thing up, I guess. See how much of it I can get done before I run out of power and or materials. I think we're just going to pretend that that one's done. Can't see it most of the time anyway. It's fine. Down one support pillar down to the ground. Let's get the next one. Yeah, this is why I didn't want to do this with this platform. This is why I figured it's about time I moved up in the world and started using bigger things to do the building, because this would have been so slow on this platform. I'm kind of too slow to ever really get the project done, which I think is the sad part. Oh, am I out of plate? I might be out of plate. That's the problem. Okay. Not a bad start. Not a bad start at all, actually. I think I'm finding helpful at the moment is staying in first person is keeping me much more level than I would be if I was in third person. It's funny, me going to this style of welder has kind of both supported my avoidance of them in some ways, because this is clearly using up a lot of power, and you can see just how much thrust was required to get this thing off the ground with even a moderate amount of resources. But equally is showing that I probably should have done it and just figured out better ways to deal with power earlier. Still going okay for power. I mean, yeah, at hover I'm down to 50 minutes, but I still feel like I'm going okay. I think getting this pillar done in what's probably going to amount to 2 trips with the rock lobster, that's pretty good. Which is still slow, but, you know, it's quicker than it could have been. I had contemplated doing this part with the same method that I built most of the big bridge pieces, building it back at the base and then transferring it using the panini. Not really sure why I didn't. I think it's because I decided that I needed this welder ship, so I kind of got distracted from the idea and just went with the welder ship. There's still some parts that I think would be best moved by the panini though, and that's the cables. Because this is going to be this is going to end up looking a bit like a cable-stayed bridge. That's the idea. So it's going to have 4 cables running down toward the direction I'm looking right now, the long side of the bridge, and then 2 cables running back into the mountain on the other side. And those cables, I think, I'm going to bring into place with the panini. Now, that sounds horrific if you think of them as actual cables and flopping about, but they're not going to be actually cables. What they're going to be is single grids that look like cables. There we go. Here's the cable attachment points. And am I running out of... What a time to run out. So there you go. That's how the cables are going to attach. There'll be 4 on this side, and they'll go down to the outside of the roadway, left and right. And then 2 on this side, which will go back into that building over there. Oh dear. Oh no, that's clear. Phew. I was just really worried for a second that I hadn't actually left enough clearance for the turret on the rock lobster. That would be bad. I had to go back and redo all the lights in the blueprint. They were painful. Changing the settings on each of them. I think that's kind of one of the nicest things about doing it this way, is that I do have that blueprint all set up with the lights correct. It's oof. Whoa, jeez. Oh. Okay. My welder, I think, just got stuck inside the hinge part. Let's grab the last little bits, get the rest of the lights done, get the top bits on the pillar done, and then think about how I'm going to do the next part. And there we are. Tower complete. Obviously the cable's still to come, but tower complete. Happy with how this is coming together. Alright, I've still got a bit more steel plate, so what I'm going to do, I think, is maybe just go along the side here and see if there's anywhere I can easily reach that I can do something useful at. Until the cables are in place, I don't want to do anything with the street lights, the deck lights, because if I do them, I'm going to have to come back here and grind those off. If I do them, then I'm going to create issues with moving around, which is why they weren't done in the first place. I'm hoping I can get away with using this to weld the rest of the deck, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I may have to build some very rough and ready thing that can drive up here and can just weld the stuff that's through the deck, because I'm going to have to do that with grid welders. There's no way I can get under there and weld up the bits now that I've placed the deck down, which is unfortunate. Sweet, we are making good progress. So what I'm thinking is, if this thing can't lean forward enough, which it probably can with a small load, and if it can, I can then just drive it, fly it along, and weld up those cross beams you can see that are still highlighted by the projector. If it can't do that, then we're going to have to build something that has welders pointing downward and can just drive along the deck and finish it all. I think I'm going to do... So I might actually fly this back to base now. It's down to a point in its power supply that I'd like to make sure it has a full charge again. I'll fly it back, I'll recharge it, I'll drive the rock lobster back, and then come back up here with another load, because this is actually working out alright. That tower was probably one of the more substantial parts. If I can bring up about as much stuff, I should be able to get this other building done. And then it's the deck, and lastly the cables. With this done, the road, to my mind, is effectively complete. Ah, I did it. I did a bad thing. blow up a thing. Should have landed on the completed ones. My earlier comments about the cargo vehicle, now that I've seen how quickly I can do this with just the rock lobster and this, make me think the cargo vehicle is not going to be required. At the moment, I don't have any large projects other than this bridge that are a long way from fairly easy transport. The base on the ice lake, it has its own supply of materials. The main base obviously has its own supply, and then you've got Steve's hole in the wall, which I want to decorate. But with the bridge done, I can just do Steve's hole in the wall, road's done, that way I can keep going collecting that magnesium. And also do something that I wanted to do with that road since I started building it, which is host a race on it. Like a point-to-point timed rally. But we'll see how we go with that first. Let's get the road done. Stop getting ahead of yourself, Splitsie. Some of you are probably thinking, but Splitsie, isn't this like the worst Reaver bait ever? My answer to that is, yeah, probably. But what you gonna do? Honestly, I don't know what else to do about it other than just go, well, yeah, the Reavers are gonna want to eat this. And I'm just gonna have to hope that they don't, because losing the Arboretum was one thing, but losing this bridge, ooh, so much more work has gone into this bridge. Actually, if this bridge was like partially destroyed, what I'd probably do is treat it like that other partially built one that I did, build a tunnel around it and just leave the wreckage there, depower the whole thing, leave whatever's remaining and just kind of have it as an interesting landmark. I just hope I get to finish this thing so you guys can see what it looks like. Okay, that's actually not strong enough to lift it up at all. I'm gonna need a new connection point first, I think. Let's turn it on recharge anyway, turn off the antenna, get those batteries back up and going. That's the other thing I can do while I'm waiting for that. Let's get up on this deck. We have searchlights now. Well, the last things I had done before was place down a couple of rotors that were intended to be custom searchlights. No more. Now we can just build them. And because I'm using my mod that makes them have a range that's actually useful, they should highlight any enemy ships that come by. Now, if I get attacked by a Reaver at night, it should be fine. I should be able to see it. This is something I'd meant to do so long ago. It was kind of... I think it was one of the reasons I used the high power spotlight mod. Oh, that's not how you spell search. Searchlights. Aiming radius 800, that's fine. And radius... What? I didn't add my mod. I need to add my mod. I have to remember. When I say my mod, I mean, like, you know... It's a tiny little XML edit. But it's still technically a mod. I think looking at the extra weight that this has in it and the fact that it's pulled that down, I could probably just get away with either putting a connector on the end there, or maybe one up here. Actually, up here is probably safer. Given the way I've oriented the connector, like positioned it 6 blocks off to the left, so it's not centerline. If I were to put it down on this end, it might get in the way of this arm. I don't think it will, but it might. So if I put it down here and have it parked out here, that's really not going to be any problem. And the reality is, for the sake of simplicity, I really should just have a connector up here for my one flying vehicle that has a connector. It's kind of my one flying vehicle in use, which is also a little bit weird. Kind of cool though. It'll also allow me access to underneath of it if I end up getting it damaged or something. I gotta be careful, my HUD's starting to look like Capax. Quite a few markers active. So really what I've got to do now is just weld up stuff. So I'm probably gonna jump ahead to when I've done all the basic welding of the building up there, and then I can kind of give you guys a walkthrough with it all complete, aside from the cables, because the cables I'm going to do in a different way. Before I go up and start this welding again, I might see if there are any blocks that I need to grind off because there were a few bits and pieces that have been replaced or changed up, but I think these are all good. Although I'm tempted to grind off the railings because I think all the paint's wrong, and I fixed the paint in the blueprint. But we'll see. I need to remember to take advantage of the placement from the cockpit to put down the new hinges that will be the parts of the next bit. And I'm going to have to come up here with this platform to get rid of those hinge parts. Maybe. Playing this like this isn't so bad. I think I will probably be able to do the deck with it, if I'm careful anyway. So it seems like I can do the... Can't believe I just did that. It seems like I can do the deck of the bridge reasonably, as long as I'm careful. And I think that makes more sense than making a purpose-built vehicle that'll be used once, and it'll be a bit of a pain to get up here anyway. Ah, no! How did I not die? Okay, apparently I've left a hole in the deck. Ah, I did it. I did a bad thing. Right. I need to get back up there and quick. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do that. I'm gonna have to drill. I'm just thinking where to drill. I've got the cheese balls marker, so... Ooh. I start drilling... Like... I can't believe I didn't fall all the way down the cliff then. It's ridiculous. Trying to drill under... Should have enough power to survive this, I think. If I kind of drill under the cheese ball and then come out the other side. Wait, am I on an ore? Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's just that funny effect you get when you get to like the voxel, when the voxels come together weirdly. So what I'm thinking is, I should be able to drill past the cheese ball, then come up to the height of the cheese ball, and then punch out through the back wall without creating too much of an ugly mess up here. I am gaining altitude at the moment, which is good. Just don't want to come out in the middle of the road. That'd be really awkward. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Slightly higher than I wanted, but not too bad. I so hope that Steve caught me falling then so I could show that from the other perspective. And now you know why that hole in the wall is there. Oh, just realized I left the welders on. That could have been painful if I'd popped out there. In fact, the irony of popping out there and dying to the welders. Oh, that would have been hilarious. Actually, it reminds me I should probably turn off this antenna, even though it just was very useful then. Okay, back to the welding. Oh, back to what I was doing, which was grabbing stuff from the back of this thing. Where's the hole? There's the hole. I'm pretty proud of how this stairwell kind of worked out. Using the plates on the side as the way to make sure that this was all a single grid and I didn't have to use the little corner pieces of the neon lights as the way to connect these stairs to one another. The plate along the side kind of gives that extra feeling of safety around this sort of area, and you can even place the double corner lights like this, which I had not expected when I first did it. In fact, I was streaming it and people were like, no, you can do it. Alright, I'll check. And yeah, it works. You can just have them there. Nope, don't place that. I want to build the light. Yeah. And now to grind these down to build state. And get some more O2. Cool. I'm going to have to hand weld these stairs so that these don't get welded up. And I'm going to have to sneak in there with the welder because I can't get those blocks underneath the catwalk while standing on it. Which is all going to get very tricky, I think. The projector's showing a few blocks missing, but I think this is pretty much done, because those few blocks missing might have been underground ones that were basically unable to be built in survival but got placed when I was designing this in creative mode. Although there are a couple of bits like these that need to be fixed and changed out to cover walls. But other than these two bits, I think we're ready for the cables. I love the way that the sodium yellowish light color works on the bridge. I think it just makes it feel so much more real to me. And I'm really happy with how the light posts have turned out. What I ended up using was the neon tubes in black and then 2 corner lights. But what I had to do with the corner light... Oh, can't get it. Anyway, what I had to do with the corner light to get the light to actually get down this far, because it only reaches out 10 meters, I've actually set up the offset so that the light is actually being emitted from a few meters below the lamppost, which gives us that kind of, if I turn off my headlights, that bright, dark look, which is what I wanted. I didn't want the light to go too far, but I also didn't want it to be just a tiny little patch of light underneath each of the lampposts. I wanted to actually be able to see all the way across the bridge thanks to these lights. And I'm pretty happy with it. In fact, I'm very happy with this. I'll be even happier once the cables go in. So the plan with the cables is to build them as a single piece back down at the base, and then transport them and attach them to the hinges up the top of the pillar using the panini. Think it'll work. Maybe. Although, now that I say it out loud, I think there's a problem with that. I actually can't do it that way. Oh. Unless I build an antenna on this thing, I won't be able to actually select the attach. Like, I won't be able to make the hinge attached to... There's no real way to get around that either. If I built the cable with the hinge on it, I'd still need an antenna on it and a sync. Well, rats. That sucks. I'm gonna have to build these block by block. Oh. I even had blueprints of the cables so that I could print them, because I thought I was going to be transporting them using the panini, but actually, I really don't want to build an antenna up here. Like, to do that for just one thing seems excessive. Alright, guess I'm building from the cockpit of the cheese ball. Okay. Alright, let's do this. Stop standing around wasting oxygen. I'm not sure why, but apparently I didn't say anything while I was doing this, but basically the idea for these cables is there is a decoy attached directly to the hinges, and then I used interior pillars. Now, one of the things I've discovered is that with the interior pillars in the right texture, there's a small emissive on them, and the normal baseline texture is one of the ones that gets it. And so that means you can actually see the cables at night without having to put any lights on them, which is really cool. They're less visible if you've got anti-aliasing enabled, but if you turn it off, you can actually see the lights really, really clearly, which is exactly what I wanted for these cables. But yeah, that's the cable design. It's pretty simple. It's a decoy, a whole line of interior pillars, and then just at the end, another decoy, and then a piston to act as a tensioner, so that I can get the cable into position and then extend it into the hinge to attach at the other end. And they look like cables. And perform a lot better than if I made actual cables out of hinges. Plus being a lot easier to build. I also did run into a few little glitches where I couldn't keep placing blocks, so I had to bring up the Splatform to help me build some of it as well. But thankfully I had it, so it worked, and then I was able to get the cables done. The way I've designed these cables, I should just be able to do this pretty quickly down here. Set this up to the right angle, extend that piston, lock it in. Because what I did was actually write down all of the angles for the cable at the top, although it seems like it's slightly off. Oh, maybe we can just force it in. Maybe. Maybe there'll be enough give that I can get this to pass in there. Not quite. But I liked the idea of having these pistons in it because they look like cable tensioners, which is effectively what they're doing, except I guess it's the opposite of that. Yeah, maybe I wrote down the numbers slightly wrong. As you can see, it all jiggles around a fair bit, so there's the possibility that it's all slightly wrong. That will be hinge A2 that I need to mess with. Hinge A2, and I want it to go down a little bit further. So let's go 40.2. Oh, that seems pretty good. Come on. Oh, it attaches. Okay. That's fine. Let's turn that off. Let's turn you off. Then we can turn the ones off at the top. Let's extend this. It's always annoying when you get to this point, and I'm so close to finish, and I've run out of all of my O2 bottles. I do have my emergency ones, but I'm not going to touch them because I don't need them right now. I've just got to attach the other 5, and we're good. Like, this really isn't that hard to do. That jiggling does make me very nervous standing this close, though. Seriously nervous. 2 more cables to go. Except... ah, nuts. Don't think I can safely go after the other cable. The other cables without having an O2 supply as bottles, because I've got to run up all those stairs. Right. I guess I will be wanting this platform back and then driving this back and getting some oxygen. Fortunately, it's just at the bottom at Steve's hole in the wall, so it's not too far. Let's speed this up a bit. Let's just fly this back. I think I've got enough power in this that I can fly it back and then fly it back out with some oxygen. So, just remembering, I have more bottles on board the Rock Lobster. Did I make a renewable... oh, I think I made a renewable oxygen supply even closer than this. The unfinished bridge has renewable supply, I think. That was part of the plan with it. Part of the safety plan. Alright, let's check it out. See, I think I had it with a vent and an oxygen tank that I filled from memory. It was so long ago. But it's just here. And that's a lot of trip to save. That looks like an oxygen tank and a vent. So glad I remembered this. Because I should be able to go like this. Inventory, tank. Drag them across. Oh yeah. There's barely anywhere to fly. That was exactly why these things were here. Oh man, I wish I'd been able to hit that spot where that tree was when I was making this path, but it was way too low. Would have been kind of cool to have a little tree on one of these spots. Connect those 2 cables at the top, and then the bridge is actually done at that moment. As soon as I connect that final thing, this bridge is complete. There might be a few touch-up bits of paint here and there, but it's complete. It's built. Which is seriously weird to say at this point. So it's been sitting incomplete for so long. Alrighty, here we go. Last cable attached. We did it. It's done. The bridge is complete. Look at this view. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, this feels so good. This feels so good. So my plans with the rest of the Magnesium Road are to finish off Steve's hole in the wall. And I might do that next time, just do a little bit of decoration at the start before we move on to the next project. But that won't be the final thing I do on the Magnesium Road. What I'm actually going to do is finish Steve's hole in the wall, go back to the base, and then probably over on Twitch, I will stream the voxel hands shaping that I'm going to do around the place. Because it looks a bit weird having these overhangs and some of these floaty bits, so I want to try and play with that to the point where when you're driving along this road, it feels like a real cliffside road. I'll do that in obviously creative mode because it's voxel hands, but I want to try and keep the surface that I've created, not do too much to change that, but just try and make this feel like a proper cliffside road. Since I've made this work, I've made the bridges, I've done it all in survival, and now I can make it pretty. Like back at the base where I've got the little snow drifts and all that sort of stuff. It's really just aesthetics, and it's stuff we can't do in survival in that way. One of the things I want to do is voxel paint the surface, like the bottom, the bit I'm standing on, different to the walls and the roof, so that when you're driving along, you can see where the path's going and it's a lot more clear. But that's for later. For now, I gotta fly that back home, I gotta drive this back home, and then, next time, Steve's hole in the wall, and probably then, it'll be building the... Well, it'll be using the cheese ball to finish off the Fort's Capac printer, because with that construction machine, I should be able to build the printer building really quickly and make it something good. So there's all that and plenty more to come, and I will see you then.